Hi, I'm Justin Catanoso, and I'm a reporter from Greensboro, North Carolina. And I've been working on an important global story since the middle of May. The story involves the Pope at the Vatican, it involves climate change, and it involves a country that I think is ground zero for the fight against global warming. So let me set this up a little bit. On June the 18th, I was in Rome, and I was able to get credentials to go to the Vatican to cover the release of one of the most important encyclicals a Pope has ever released. An encyclical is a teaching document by the Pope, and that teaching document is here in my hand. It's called Laudato Si, on care for our common home. And what Pope Francis is doing for the first time as a Pope is he is saying, almost as church law, that we have got to take better care of our earth, that we've got to take better care of this one planet that we all live on. Now listen, it wasn't just Pope Francis that did this. John Paul II also spoke about these issues. Benedict also spoke about these issues. But it was sort of as a sideline. They never put it in an encyclical. And in order to put it together, the Pope called together experts from around the world, and not just Catholics. He called together scientists. He called together spiritual leaders. He called together sociologists. People that were experts in the third world, experts in poverty, experts in water quality, experts in climate change and climatology. This is a fascinating document that is not written like something formal that you can't sit down and read yourself. It is written in very plain language. This is a Pope that wants to communicate with the world. Some people have said, and I like this part, some people said it reads like he wrote it like a journalist. But the real story and the real reason that I've come to where I am now in southern Peru is to test the premise. The Pope is looking to be a world leader when it comes to the issue of climate change. He wants to have his say. He recognizes that presidents and chancellors and prime ministers from around the world, from the biggest countries, from the United States to China to India to all the major countries in Latin America, have not been doing what they really need to do to fight climate change. And he believes that we are on this unsustainable path of not only plundering the riches of the earth, but also putting us on a trajectory to heat up the earth so quickly over the next 50 to 100 years that life might be unsustainable here. And if not unsustainable, then certainly unsustainable in the third world. Now remember, this Pope is from Argentina. He is the very first Pope from Latin America. And so that's why I'm here in South America. I've come to Peru, a country that I know pretty well. I've reported from here a couple of times, including the UN Climate Summit last December. Peru really is, in many ways, ground zero for the fight against climate change. So I started my reporting here in Lima, interviewing high government officials, academics, leading members of the clergy, even some journalists, to get this sense of whether the encyclical is sinking in, whether people are listening to this incredibly popular Pope and the things that he has to say about what he believes we need to do to save the planet. So I want to read just one aspect of this encyclical that speaks directly to the conflict in Peru between the extraction industry and the hope to save this natural environment. It's section 145, and it reads, "Many of the intensive forms of environmental exploitation and degradation not only exhaust the resources which provide local communities with their livelihood, but also undo the social structures which for a long time shaped cultural identity and their sense of meaning of life in community." That's what we're seeing happening all over Peru, especially in Arequipa, and especially out on the coast, where the fight over the Tia Maria copper mine is going on as we speak. So with my assistant, Enrique Ortiz, we left Arequipa a couple days ago to come to the western part of Arequipa, to a town called Cocachacra, where there has been for the last 5 years this contentious debate between this unbelievably beautiful farming region, which is represented by this statue, a farming region that has been fertile and abundant for the people here for 200 years, and a copper mine that lies in the mountains beyond this church.
So the mayor of Cocachacra took us out to see the mine, and once we arrived, we could actually see the threat that the opposition is talking about with our own eyes. There is this space for this huge open pit copper mine. They're going to dig it some 500 feet deep, well below the level of where the groundwater is. And it is right next to the Tambo River. And if you swing around 180 degrees, you see that this proposed mine is maybe 500 yards from the farm valley. Now, the copper company has pledged that it will operate to the highest environmental standards and that there will be no problems, and the government has approved this project. But the threat there is this. This valley gets very little rainwater. Its lifeblood for the last 200 years, supporting thousands and thousands of Peruvian families, has been the river and the groundwater. And they believe that this copper mine, when it is operating, will destroy their water source. And when it destroys the water source, it destroys the agriculture, it destroys these families' livelihoods, and it destroys a culture. And I think if you read the encyclical closely enough, you'll see that Pope Francis would agree with that assessment.
So my stories are going to appear in venues all across the United States, in print, online, and in broadcast. And they'll all be gathered on the Pulitzer Center website. Reporting from Peru, this is Justin Catanoso.